Welcome everybody, this is Kevin Miller, President of Vision Bound International and a part of the Interweave Solutions family. In this family, we're trying to help you become successful. And you already did a lot of that through the Masters of Business in the Streets program. And as you know, this is a foundational program, but we want to add more skills to you so that you can become an effective leader. And we're going to power pack those skills into a symbolic toolbox. Hopefully you watched my introductory video because you'll understand why you're in my garage with all my tools. We want you to have a toolbox that you can pull from to get things done. And certainly delegating is one of the most important and powerful tools that you can use to delegate to yourself and others to get the important work done in your business. So we're going to learn about the skills of delegating. And as you delegate, it shows that you trust people. People want to be trusted. And when you assign things to them and say, I trust you, here's what I'd like you to do. I'm delegating this to you because I trust you and I need you to be a part of this business. That excites people. They go, wow, he cares about me. She cares about me. And they're giving me this important assignment. However, what you're going to learn is there are 6 steps or so to delegating effectively. And by the way, it also can be about delegating to yourself. Because if you're in the business by yourself, you still need to delegate to yourself. You need to give yourself assignments. And so these skills will work even if you're all by yourself as a sole proprietor in your business. But folks, we want your business to grow. We want it to develop. So we want to do this through delegating. Now, as a part of this, I want to show you a little tool that I use. And I take this with me wherever I go as a trainer, because it illustrates what we're trying to achieve in your business. We want you to go from here to here. We want your business to grow, become more and more effective. This Hoberman sphere illustrates that very beautifully, because for this ball to change, every part of the ball has to be involved, has to be moving. There's not one part of this ball that's not moving right now. And this is true in your business. You have clients and customers. You have perhaps some people working with you. You may not have full employees, but you have partners. They all need to be a part of the growth of your business. And that's what delegating will do for you. It will help you get everybody involved, everybody feeling trusted, everybody feeling excited about being part of your business. So, welcome to this webinar on delegation. And make sure you have the packet printed out that was sent to you, because in the back of the packet there's an application page on how you're going to apply this. What are you going to delegate and to whom after this workshop is over? Because we want this to be a process of learning and achievement and application. So once again, Kevin Miller, welcome to our webinar on effective delegation. And you will see me again after the presentation and I'll follow up with you. Thank you. Okay, welcome everybody. I hope you enjoyed seeing a little bit about me on that video. We are now into one of our first webinars on one of the powerful tools of leadership, and that is how to delegate, powering down through delegating. I hope that all of you did receive and printed off this packet that goes along with the workshop so that you can take notes and have an action plan at the end. If not, you can see the pages of it on the screen. I really like this quote by John Buchanan. He says, "The task of leadership is not to create greatness in humanity, but to elicit it, for the greatness is already there." This is a very powerful thing to remember about your whole team. You're not trying to make people great, you're just trying to bring out the greatness, and that is exactly what delegating helps to do. I also like this quote by Peter Drucker. "Leadership is lifting a person's vision to higher heights, the raising of a person's performance to a higher standard, the building of a personality beyond its normal limitations." Again, this is what delegating can do. And also this great quote by Henry Ford, who started the Ford Motor Company. "Coming together is a beginning, keeping together is progress, working together is success." I also want you to realize that this doesn't just work at work, it can work at home as well. This is a picture of my family, my 4 children and 6 grandchildren, and I'm the father, and my wife is over there above my left shoulder. And sometimes we have to delegate within our own family as we assign assignments to the children and others. So this tool that you're going to learn will help you at home as well. Teddy Roosevelt said, "The best executive is the one who has sense enough to pick good men or women to do what he wants done, and the self-restraint to keep from meddling with them while they do it." And another great leader, Joseph Smith, was asked how he was so effective in uniting and building a community of people from all over the world. And he said, "I teach them correct principles and let them govern themselves." So this workshop will teach you correct principles and ideas, but ultimately we need to let people govern themselves. In 2023, I will be releasing my second book. This one's called Leaders Do 5 Things, Taking the Helm in a Turbulent World. I want you to think of your company as a ship, and you're steering it through rough water sometimes and smooth water sometimes, and you have your hand on the helm. And the helm has 5 areas to it. First of all, you envision. But it's not enough to have a vision. You have to enroll people. They have to believe in it. They have to want it. And then you have to enable them before you can engage them. And this is where delegation puts the wheel in motion. You enroll, you enable, and you engage. Daniel Webster said this amazing thing: "Men can do jointly what they cannot do singly. In the union of hearts and minds, the concentration of power becomes almost omnipotent." So you want your organization to succeed. You want your company to grow and succeed. And if there is a magic bullet for organizational success, it is this. I call it focused accountability. Focus means you've got everybody in the company, in your team, your family, focused on the most important thing, your North Star. And you're holding people accountable. So it's focused accountability, and that is what delegating can do. Another word for this might be directed autonomy. If you just give people autonomy without direction, they might scatter in all kinds of directions. But you're giving them directed autonomy, directed toward the vision, the mission, and goals, and then give them as much flexibility as possible to achieve it. Now, this is a very important concept. If you routinely do for another person what they can do for themselves, you eventually weaken them. Notice the importance of the word routinely. Of course, we often help others, like our children, learn and grow, but we must give them the power to take responsibility more and more, so we don't weaken them by overparenting and micromanaging. Sometimes I call this snoopervising. Abraham Lincoln said this a little differently when he said, "You cannot help men permanently by doing for them what they could and should do for themselves." So as we delegate, we're giving them trust that they can do what they should do for themselves. Now here's an interesting thought. You cannot hold people accountable for results if you continue to supervise their methods. We could have a discussion about this, but I think you understand why. If I supervise you and tell you exactly what to do this, do this, do this, how can I hold you accountable? Because you would just say, well, I just did what you told me to do. So we want to give people directed autonomy. They need to know where to go, but we're giving them as much autonomy as we can. The beginning of wisdom is always understanding terms. So how do we define delegating? It's basically the work you perform to entrust responsibility to others for accountable results, or in other words, getting things done through other people. Now there's a lot of benefits for delegating. If you just think about them, it increases productivity and a power base, it employee satisfaction, involvement, it builds competency and leadership, it increases creativity because everyone's involved, it raises employee self-esteem, increases trust both ways, builds excitement and enthusiasm, and builds ownership through vested interest. There's a lot of reasons why people don't delegate. Sometimes there's not enough time. I can do it faster myself than ask someone else to do it. Or maybe the perception the job's too important to take any risks. I got to do it all myself. Or perhaps we believe that we can do a better job. And also a lack of confidence in those who work for you. Desire to maintain control, and sometimes even a fear that a subordinate or a worker will do a better job. And finally, there's concern that manager's boss will think you're not even working. So these are some common reasons for not delegating. Now, nagging people is not a good way to get things done. In fact, Stephen Covey made this quote, "If you nag people enough, work becomes the course of least resistance." And I've got 4 children, and if I nag them enough, they'll get things done sometimes. But that's not a very good way to lead. We want to lead through a more powerful way. Let me tell you an amazing story about a very smart woman that I met. I was teaching at a conference, and she told me that she wanted her children to take ownership of cleaning their rooms. But when she said, "Go clean your room," and they come out 5 minutes later, she would go in there, and their standard of clean was not anything like hers. So she realized they just didn't understand what clean looked like to her. So she made it a lot of fun. She worked with each child for an hour or two, maybe longer, and cleaned up their room, got everything perfect just the way it should look, the way they wanted their toys, the way they wanted everything to look. And then she took pictures of it. And she said, "If your room looks like this at noon on Saturday, I will leave your allowance on the bed. If not, I keep your allowance, and you owe me 2 hours of extra service in the week." So here's an example of perhaps of what one of her pictures could look like. This is the little girl's room or whatever. Everything is organized just the way she wants it. But here's the amazing thing she did. She realized that she needed to be able to capture the standard in pictures. So once the room was perfect, she took pictures of the room in its great state. And then she put pictures of it on the back of their door. This is the standard. This is what a clean room looks like at noon on Saturday. So there was a standard, a very clear standard. She even took pictures of under their bed. So this page in your workbook, page 3, summarizes many of the things that we talked about. The benefits of delegation, reasons people don't, the 5 levels of initiative I'll talk about in a few minutes, and some other things, the role of the person who delegates and the role of the person who receives the delegation. And then there are some principles that we will be covering. So keep this page handy. Now here's an important concept. Whenever possible, delegate stewardships, not single tasks. A stewardship is a grouping of responsibilities, like that mother gave her children the stewardship for their room. Now, when you give someone a stewardship, they own the whole thing. But you have to give them all the necessary responsibility, accountability, and authority. And that's exactly what that mother did. Made them responsible. There was accountability noon on Saturday. And she gave them the authority and the tools in order to do the job. Now, the definition of accountable is your obligation to perform your responsibility and exercise your authority within a performance standard. It means answerable, capable of being explained. So that's what accountable means. So the last one is the authority. Your authority is the rights and powers assigned to you. It is the right and power to command, enforce laws, exact obedience, determine, or judge. So you're giving people responsibility, accountability, and authority to carry out the stewardship. And that gives them the maximum flexibility, but also keeps it well within the line of what you expect and what they need to do. So what do you want to delegate? Well, you should always try to delegate your technical work down to the deck plate where people can do it. You want to delegate your routine tasks, but not just those, also challenging non-routine tasks that shows people you trust them and that you're building them. You also can delegate problems to be solved. I was once at a manager's office and he had a sign on his door that said, Problems welcome as long as you bring at least one well thought out solution. In other words, don't let people bring you problems without solutions. Also, you want to delegate development experiences for employees and basically anything you can. So now we're moving on to an important activity where you will be applying what we've been teaching to your own situation. So we'll want you to start working on a delegation plan in your packet. I'll show you that on the next page. You're going to make a list of the things you do at work and at home and determine if they could or should be delegated. So here's the tool that you can use to do this with. You just list the activity and whether you could or could not delegate it, and then to whom you might delegate it, and what degree of initiative will you be giving them. I'll be covering that in just a minute. Here is a more visual way to look at it. Think of it as a pyramid. You want as many things at level 5 as you can. Just letting people have freedom and then report to you routinely. Level 4, act and report immediately. Level 3, recommend and then take directed action. Level 2, ask me what to do. Level 1, wait until told. But we want the pyramid to be like this, with more things being trusted to people and entrusted to them. Now we get to page 7, which is one of my very favorite tools. I've used it with so many people all around. Basically, this is all the ways, well, not all the ways, but many, many ways people can be talented. Sometimes when people think the only talents are maybe sports or art or music, but actually these are 200 ways that you can be talented. I mean, party planning is on this, drawing, organizing, there's so many talents. In fact, when I've given this out to young people, they're amazed at how many talents they have, as do adults. So what you want to do is give this to all of your people and have them circle all of the talents that they have on the list. And then maybe number the top 5 and turn this into use so that you know what people think their talents are. And by the way, you would be surprised with your own children or relatives if you did this, because they know what their talents are, and sometimes you think you do, but you don't. And I like this quote by Warren Bennis. There's 2 ways of being creative. One can sing and dance, or one can create an environment where singers and dancers flourish. And my friends, that's what you're doing with your new team or your existing business. You're creating an environment where everyone around you can flourish. So now we're going to get to the meat of this whole workshop in many ways. What are the effective steps of delegation? We're going to learn that there are a number of steps that you can take, and if you do them in order, the delegation will be effective. So let's learn what those are. So to help you, I have actually created a delegating worksheet that you could actually fill out when you want to delegate something effectively. Now, of course, you wouldn't do this with every little task, but something that's very important, you can actually use this worksheet ahead of time to think it through before you delegate. So this lists the steps of delegation, and on the second page it shows that you could use different steps with different degrees of initiative for each step. So let's go over the steps. Step 1, you want to outline the general framework of the project. Not too much detail, just let them know why it's important, where it's going, what is the framework of this assignment that you're giving them, so they kind of understand the big picture. Now with the second step, you've given them the framework of it. Then you want to co-create, work with them a vision of what the desired end result will be. Now I want to give you a very careful, kind of a warning here. When you're doing this, co-create it, but be very, very careful about introducing your ideas, because they may take those ideas as exactly what they're supposed to do. So you might just say, so how do you think this could look? What do you think the vision of the end result of this could look like? And you listen and listen and listen without interrupting or interjecting your own ideas. So now you get to step 3. People understand the framework, and you've helped create a vision with them of what the desired end result will look like. That's what that mother did when she helped the children get a vision of their clean room and then took pictures of it. Now, step 3, clarify the resource limitations. People need to know how much money, time, etc. they have, and include the degree of initiative you're giving them. Is this a level 5, 4, 3, 2, whatever? So now they understand the framework, they understand the vision, but they also understand how much resources they have to work within. Now with step 4, we want to make sure that they understand the project the way you did also. So you ask the other person for a restatement of the assignment and gain a commitment to the goals. So if I was giving this to Bob or Bill or Sarah, she'd say, well, as I understand it, the framework is this, and here's what we want as an end result. I have this much time and money and so forth, and you're giving me the degree of initiative of 4. You want me to act, but let you know exactly what I've done. And you go, great. Are you committed to it? Are you excited? Yes. So now at step 5, you've gone through the first steps. Now you discuss their initial ideas for completing the project. Do not interrupt or inject your ideas here. This is very important because you might make a very idle suggestion, but they think that's what you're telling them to do. So don't interrupt or inject your ideas here at this point. Now this slide actually adds a 6th step that wasn't on the worksheet, which is okay. You just have to establish some kind of monitoring procedure. Who does what, by when, and how will we follow up? So you might want to say, okay, we'll follow up in 2 weeks from today or a week from today. Who does what, by when, and how do we follow up? So now we're getting towards the end. Your individual activity is to work on the delegation form in your packet. Select one thing you can delegate this week and complete the form using the 5 to 6 step model we just learned. In other words, this is where you take what we've taught and put it to effect on one thing that you can delegate. It could be at home, it could be at work, wherever. So it's really important that you keep track of everything that you're asking people to do. Otherwise, they may figure out, well, he or she will never remember they asked me to do that. So you create some kind of a tracking tool that works for you. And I'm giving you a bunch of different examples here, but it can be manual. Just you can make one per person in your planner or however, or file. You can do a computerized database or tracking tool. You can even get speed message binders that keep carbon copies of the notes and tasks you sent out. Whatever works for you, that's what you need to do. But there has to be a system to keep it sharp in your mind, and they know that you know. And in case it's helpful, on the next page, page 10, you've got a sample of a form that you could use to really keep detailed records of what you ask people to do and when, and the degree of initiative and all those things. So that's a way to really keep track of it. If you want to use that, you can make copies. And you can even use your smartphone. Like this is just a note in your smartphone that you just pull up and you fill out the action, who you gave it to, when it's due, what the degree of initiative, and how you're going to follow up. And that is recorded, and then you can sort these or put them into folders depending upon who you gave it to. So you'd have a folder of all the little delegations, and later on you could transfer it to a larger form if you wanted. And if you're like many people who like to have a piece of paper in your pocket or cards, you could use these action trackers. These are just, you can copy this up on cardstock and then cut them out and keep them in your pocket or purse wherever you are. Because you could actually pull one out and record the action, who you've given it to, who's supporting it, what due date you've given them, and maybe when you're going to follow up. And these can just be in your pocket, and you can pull them out when you're on the run and you want to record something quickly. I'd like to share you an interesting experience I had. I was in the Army for a long time, and my brigade commander at Fort Ord in the 7th Infantry Division, he had 4 colored index cards in his pocket of his uniform. and he would pull them out. If he pulled out a green card, it was something he liked, and he'd write a note on it and put it in his pocket. If it was an idea he had, he'd pull it out a yellow card. If it's something he delegated, he would put it on a purple card. So I gave this to Captain Miller. And if there was a problem or an issue, something, he'd write it on a pink card. And I noticed that when he got back to his office at the end of the day, he put these out on his desks, green, yellow, purple, pink, and he started acting on them. Ideas, delegations, problems to correct. It was just his way of doing it. And it was a simple way, but it worked for him. So I guess what I'm trying to say is do whatever works for you. So finally, here's another form that I'm just showing you. I'm giving you some examples. This one's quite detailed because it lists the main projects, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and subsets to the project. Because it might be different people are working on a project, so 1A might belong to a different person than 1B and so forth. So this is a little bit more detailed, and you can do it on the computer or however you want. And it just gives it a chance for you to really think through and keep track of what has been given to whom. So finally, I want to share something from the wisdom of Yoda in Star Wars. I don't remember if you, or don't know whether you saw that scene where Luke was trying to get his fighter out of the swamp. And he was trying to use the Force because Yoda was trying to train him how to use the Force. But he couldn't do it. It would raise a few inches and fall back down. And Luke got frustrated. He says, I'm trying. And Yoda said, either do or do not. There is no try. And Luke, be committed. Do it or don't do it. Don't try. And so I'd like to share that I think very weak words in the English language are maybe and try. How do you measure maybe? How do you measure try? How can you hold people accountable for maybe or try? Or yourself? So if you give somebody something to do and they says, well, I'll try, then you need to stop and say, how do we get try to yes? When you say try, you're obviously concerned about something. What is it? Let me fix it. And you fix it until they say, yes, I can do this. So I love that. Either do or do not. There is no try. And that is Yoda's wisdom as we close our webinar today. So we're almost to the end. But I call a Monday morning plan meaning something you're going to do on Monday morning. Monday being symbolic just means soon. And here's some actions coming out of this webinar. Do the 200 talents on each staff member, family member, whatever. Make a list of all the things you're now doing and see if you can delegate any of them. Use the 6-step form each time you think through a delegation. Look at your staff and balance the delegations. Don't burn out your top performers. Build potential in everyone. Make a clear system for tracking and reporting, like I taught you. And then finally, modify your meeting agendas to add who does what by when and how do we follow up, maybe at the bottom of each agenda. And assign an action catcher for each meeting. That would be someone that you ask, would you keep track of everything that comes out of our meeting, who does what by when, and how do we follow up? And that person reports the very last thing in the meeting. So everyone knows exactly who was to do what by when and how do we follow up. Very, very powerful. So with each webinar that I present, there will be a page like this, an after action application assignment. So this page is in your packet on page 11, I think, yes. And so basically you just record right now, while it's still in your mind, what was the main thing you learned, the main concept that you learned in what we did today. And how do you think this will help you and be of value to you as a leader? And how do you plan to use this delegation concept and build an action plan for you as a leader? And then finally, is it during this coming week or 10 days, what are you going to do, with whom, by when, and how will you do it? So this is kind of your application of everything that we learned. And so, my virtual friends, thank you for learning about delegation today. And please watch and learn from all of our current and upcoming webinars that will be out on the website for Interweave Solutions. And please know that you can contact me at kevin@visionbound.com, or you can text or even WhatsApp me, 801-916-7433. I'm happy to provide answers or help you in any way that I can. Again, Kevin Miller, President of Vision Bound International. Thanks for watching and learning. Okay, everyone, I hope that you learned some interesting things about how to delegate. You learned the steps for delegating. You learned how to delegate, what to delegate, and to whom. It was all in that packet and in the slides that you just saw. So remember that delegating is part of a very important tool to go in your toolbox. This toolbox is going to be filled with tools on how you can be a more effective leader, and certainly delegating is one of those important tools. So thank you for watching. Again, Kevin Miller, Vision Bound International, and I'll look forward to having you come on some of the other webinars that I'll be presenting. So thank you and good luck, and God bless you in your business.